Okay, so we've been playing around with the pen tool a little bit, and you had what I'm calling a trainer drawing or an exercise drawing um, in the last video, and you've hopefully practiced with that by now. And what we want to move on to is the next kind of exercise drawings. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to my desktop where I have my online R222 folder, and I have this folder here called Zoo Animal Templates, again, which you'll be able to download. And I have three templates. I have an elephant, a hippo, and a buffalo. And let's take a quick look at them. And so here's our elephant, here's our hippo, and here's our buffalo. Okay? So let's go to the elephant first. And notice they are numbered 1, 2, and 3, and that is in easy, medium, and harder. I shouldn't call them really easy, medium, and harder. They're just, yeah, I guess that's a good way to go. Easy, medium, and harder. It's not the last one's hard, it's just harder than the one before it. And the medium's easier than the easy one. Or excuse me, the medium's harder than the easy one. Anyway, so you'll notice there's these like little rudimentary drawings of these animals. They look like 1980s coloring book animals, which is fine, right? And I want to point out that there's these little squiggles, okay, on the drawings, and what they represent they represent the actual anchor points that we should go ahead and use, and the line you see, that's the actual path that we're going to use to create them. And again, this is meant to help train you. It's meant to help train you into where to plot points and how far to pull out curves and all that sort of stuff as well. So we're going to bring these into Illustrator. Now I'd like to point out that these are not Illustrator files. These are what we call TIFF files. So if I just go ahead and say File and Open in Illustrator, and I find my zoo animal template, this is what I get. Okay, I get it opens up this picture file, right? It's cool, it's there, and I can go ahead and I can draw on it. But I want to point out a handful of problems that we have. Problem one, okay. Some tools will not be available to us. In this case, we're going to draw with the pen tool. While that would be available to us, things like the paintbrush are not. And there's other tools like that are just not available to us because this is not a native Illustrator document. Another thing I'd like to point out is your swatches. Notice that it's empty. Okay, it's because, again, this is not an Illustrator document. So we do not want to do this. The software just lets you do it, but you know what? A road that is a one-way road will also let you just drive the wrong way on it, and we're not supposed to do that. So again, we do not want to open files like this. Instead, what we want to do is we want to start out with a blank document, and what I have here is I'll go ahead and I'll delete what I have and I'll make a brand new one. So we'll say File and New, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick my profile as print, and my size is going to be letter, my units are going to be inches, and my orientation is going to be portrait. And I'm going to say okay to that. And I have an 8.5 by 11 letter size document, and that's my artboard. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, and rather than say Open, I'm going to do this command here, the Place command. So File and Place. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look for my file, and right there in my folder, in my 222 folder, is my Zoo Animal Templates folder, and right here is my elephant. Cool. Okay. Now, the blue place button is looking at me, and that's cool and all, but I want to do a few things. First, we have down here, we have a couple things that we can check. So by default, link is checked. I want to uncheck link, because what link does is it creates this file pathway between your Illustrator file and your, in this case, your TIFF, okay, your picture file. And I don't want that. Rather, what I do is I want to embed the file into Illustrator. And you'll notice right here it says this is a TIFF image and it's 1 megabyte. Okay, so 1 megabyte image, embedding it into the Illustrator file, that's totally okay to do. I would say that you can probably embed anything under 150 or 200 megabytes and you're going to be fine. Once you start getting above that, Illustrator will start working very sluggish and very slow. I think one time I worked on a big panel that went in like a mall kiosk. It was about 6 foot or 7 foot tall, and I had embedded the image into Illustrator, and it worked very slow. It still worked, and I was able to get the job done. It just worked a lot slower than I wanted it to. But in this case, I want the file embedded, so then that way I can look at this as a singular file. Otherwise, I would always have to keep my AI file and my TIFF together, and sometimes in the beginning that just becomes problematic. So the second thing I want to do is I want to check this box called a template, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to essentially end up with the elephant drawing on a layer below where we can actually draw. And that's going to be pretty cool. Think of it kind of like as a light box that you can put a picture on and then put a piece of drawing paper on top of it and trace the picture. We don't need to show import options, so I'm going to leave that alone, and I'm simply going to hit place. And what I get is I get my template, and I have my layers open. And again, what I have is I have layer 1, which that's going to be something that I'm going to draw on, and then I have template, and it's just called template1elephant.tiff because that's what my file name was. If I want to learn more about the elephant TIFF, what I can do is I can double click on the thumbnail, not the name. If I double click on the name, it's just going to ask me to like rename it. So if I double click on the thumbnail, which is a little piece of paper next to the name, a window is going to open up. And what I can do is I can make this a template or not make this a template, and I can dim my images if I want. Right now it says it's dimmed to 50. I can dim it a little more. I can dim it to like 25 if I want. Okay, and doesn't seem to be changing at all as I do this. I noticed that in the newest version of Illustrator that didn't work. So if you have the newest version of Illustrator and that dimming is not working, I think it's a bug. Every version of Illustrator I've worked on ever before that has always worked, but I've noticed that this one's not, and it's just been the past few days that I've actually picked up on that. So I'm sure it's something that they're going to fix, but usually you should be able to dim your images. See, if I uncheck that and say okay, it doesn't look any visually different. So usually speaking, we want to dim our images. See, I unmade it a template and it didn't do anything. So making it a template will automatically give it a lock. It should automatically dim those images. Again, I'm going to bring it down to 25. Unfortunately, it's not working visually for us right now. I think it's the version of the Illustrator that I have, which is version 2015 3.0 release. So if you have that version and it's doing the same thing, again, I think it's a bug. If you have like CS6, it's totally going to work. If you have an older version of Creative Cloud, it's totally going to work. It's just this version, it's being kind of weird. So when I'm on that template layer though, okay, it's got a big lock on it. That means I can't modify the elephant at all, which is actually a good thing. I don't want to modify it at all. I want to leave it as is. So I want to make sure that I have layer 1 clicked and that it's highlighted. And then I'll be able to go ahead and I'll be able to draw or do whatever I want. Now, I don't really want to use the paintbrush tool, so I'm going to get rid of that. And I'm going to come over to my pen tool and we're going to start drawing. And I'm going to draw the elephant with you. Okay. And then you're going to go ahead and do the hippo and you're going to do the buffalo on your own afterwards. And then we're going to come back and we're going to build off of this a little bit. So I am going to start at a relatively easy point, right? And it's going to be right here because I have a straight line going up and I have a straight line going over. So that means I can start with a single click. And since we have an image that won't dim here for me, I don't think drawing with a black line is going to be extremely helpful for anybody viewing this video. So I'm going to just change my stroke to something like red. Okay, that way we can just see a little bit better. But I also want to make sure that my fill is empty. I do not want a closed fill as I do this because I want to be able to see the drawing the entire time. So I'm going to start right here with a single click. And I'm going to go straight up here. And I'm, again, looking for those little squiggles that I mentioned before. And here we go. And now I have a choice to make, okay? I can come over here and I can click on the ear and I can try to build it that way, or I can come over here to the little squiggle. Spoiler alert, the squiggles are where you're supposed to go. So I'm going to click and I'm going to pull this until it lines up with the actual drawing. Cool. Okay. So now I have to get all the way down here. Okay. And that's a really big curve. And I'm going to tell you right now what's going to happen is I'm zoomed in too much. So when I click and I try to pull this out, ooh, I might actually get it. Ah, that's what happened, right? I just hit the bottom of my page and then I lost sight of my elephant. That sort of thing happens more than you would expect. So, okay, that's not what I want. So I'm going to do Command Z and I'm going to undo. And I'm going to hold down my space bar and I'm going to pull this back a little bit. And I'm going to use Command and minus sign just to zoom out a little bit. And again, I can always zoom back in later. And again, I'm going to click and I'm going to pull. And I'd like to point out, it is not a race, okay? So go slow because you're learning how these curves work and you're going to better control them if you do that, okay? If you Speedy Gonzalez your way through this, you're going to run into a lot of problems. So I'm going to go ahead and that looks about right, and I'm going to let go of that. Then I'm going to zoom in, and I'd like to point out that I have an extremely large handle. So if I try to go here, look at that giant curve that gets made. That doesn't look right. I can click and I can pull as much as I want, but there's no way I'm going to make that work. So that's just something that's not going to work. So this is where I'm going to have to go ahead and I'm going to have to click on that last anchor I made, find that upside down V or the caret, and then be able to take control of this a little bit further. There we go. So these drawings, they're going to be a combination of utilizing the handles and following the handles, or taking control and making your own kind of Bezier curves. So it's going to be a combination of both, and that's how most illustrated drawings are. So then I'm going to come right over here. I'm going to have a straight line down, and then I'm going to have a little curve here. Again, we're going to try a little handle here, Bezier curve. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Come right up here and straight line. Okay, now we get pretty easy. We're getting to these mechanical kind of straight lines. Not hard at all. That pink line that you see on my screen, that is my smart guides, and you can turn those on. If yours aren't on, you go to View and Smart Guides. They pop up at you and they show these lines and they let you know when you're intersecting. And I won't lie, the first couple years of Smart Guides, I found them the most annoying thing in the world. And now that I draw with them every day, I don't know how I lived without them before, to be completely honest with you. So they really are your friends. So I'm going to click here and then I'm going to come on up here and I have a choice. I have two choices. Choice number one, I can go ahead and I can go right up into the belly, into the armpit, right? And finish off that leg. But if I do that, then what's going to happen is I'm not going to be able to close my shape because I can't really go ahead and make a line and then draw right back over my line. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to go across the belly here and I'm going to click and I'm going to pull. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click right here and do the same thing. And straight line. There's my smart guide telling me that I'm lining up all of my anchors on the bottom, and voila. Okay. Uh-oh. Look at that. It's a little off, right? See that bad angle right there? Look at that. Oh no. All right, so what I'm going to do is grab my anchor here with my white arrow or my direct selection tool. I'm going to pull it straight down until, look, there's my smart guide. It's letting me know that I'm doing it the right way. Perfect. And let's see how this elephant looks. I'm going to turn the template layer off, turn off that visibility, and look at that. Pretty cool. Okay. Flick that back on. Let's go ahead and start drawing some other stuff. So we have a tusk. we have an eye socket, we have an eyeball, we have an ear, we have a leg, we have toenails, and then we have these like little lines that better define the legs a little bit. So let's just go easier to harder. Okay, so let's do the leg because it's super simple. So this is just a mechanical drawing again. I'm gonna let my smart guides let me know where I should go, and bam, it's done. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's do the tusk. So I'll start here. I'm going to click and I'm going to pull right here. Perfect. I'm going to continue on my curve right there. Now if I try to continue my curve here, it might work, it might not work. Ooh, I got it to work. Great. Awesome. Going to pull this. And now look at that. See how it wants to curve? We know that that's not the right thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead. I'll zoom in a little bit so I can see what I'm doing a little better. I'm going to click on the caret, and then I'm going to just make this a straight line. And if you think you screw up, just turn that back one off. And like, you know, if I screw something up, like let's pretend I screwed up my tusk, I could literally select it and just hit delete and then redraw it again. Okay. And, you know, 6 1/2 does another with what's the better way to go, redrawing or you know, trying to modify and fix what you drew already. Personally, I like to believe that redrawing is the way to go because you're just trying to enhance your skills and get better at this stuff. So let's go and let's do the eye. Now the eye kind of looks like a triangle, so I could kind of create this weird triangle shape, but you know what, I've done this enough. And I'm going to click here, and I'm going to just click right up here, and I'm going to pull this kind of curved shape, and then I'm going to come down here, and you see how that's kind of like a straight line. Okay, so I'll click the little anchor, and you know, it's not quite a straight line, it's just not that big of a curve. So I'll just pull that here, and I'm going to close this off just like that. Okay. This, guys, this is a circle. So I'm not going to try to draw that. I'm going to grab my ellipse tool. I'm going to drop that kind of right in the center here. I'm going to hold out my option key and my shift key, and I'm going to pull out a circle. Just like that. And again, there we are. And if you need to zoom in a little bit and maybe like rearrange where the circle falls within that eye socket, perfectly fine. If it's not 100% accurate, it's okay, as long as we're pretty close in this case. Now, what do we have left? We have the ear, and then we have the little squiggles that better define the legs, or what I was calling the armpits before, okay? So I want to point something out. These are not shapes, all right? These are simply lines. So let's go ahead and let's draw them. So I'm going to click here. Actually, I'm going to probably start at the bottom here. I'm going to click right there and make a nice big curve. And I'm going to continue it up. Will that work? Not really. It's got that extra kind of curve going on, so that's all right. So I'll click on the anchor. I'm going to pull it. There we go. That's nice. Now I can hold the shift key down, and that's going to make sure that I pull this in a straight line, my handle, and that really kind of makes it work out. And I'm going to just click here and click here, straight down and over. Okay, now again, I want to disengage. Okay, at this point, when I close a shape, it disengages for me automatically. But when I have a line like this, okay, and the ear, it's like a shape. It's what we'll call an implied shape, and I'll explain that better in a minute. But I don't want to keep drawing, because watch what happens if I go to try to draw this part of the line here. Look at that. It just connects it, and I don't want that. So what I need to do is I need to click off of there, and I can do that by clicking on the selection tool, where, as you can see, the selection tool is called V, right? And I can go ahead and I can click on that, and then if I want to draw again, I can click on the pen tool, right? That works, totally works. But watch. Okay. Again, if I tap the letter V, I automatically just disengage. I select the selection tool. But watch this. Okay, remember the shortcut for the pen tool was the letter P, as in pen. So if I just tap that, watch. Ooh, look at that. I've disengaged from the drawing, and I can go ahead and I can draw again. So again, the letter P will help you disengage from your line and allow you to just start a new line, because that is the shortcut to actually get to the pen tool. So let's go ahead and put these little kind of lines in here, just like this. Tap the letter P, click over here, and there we go. Let's turn that visibility off. All right, we're almost there. Okay. Ooh, what do we need? We need toenails. So what is the toenail? It's a square. So let's go to our rectangle tool and let's pull out a square. Hold the shift key down. There we are, pulling out a square. Now, I could go ahead and I can draw two squares, or I can select a single square. Okay, and I'll roll my mouse over there. I lose the tail. It becomes that little stealth bomber. I'll hold down the Option key and I'll drag. If I hold the shift key down too, I'm going to drag a copy, and I'm going to drag it in a straight line. Okay, and now check it out. I got two more sets of toenails. I'm going to grab both of these things, and I'm going to, select them, Option, click, shift, drag, and I'm going to let go of the mouse first, then the keys. So they're highlighted again, Option, click, shift, drag. Let go of the mouse first. And there I go, guys. That is an elephant. And he's looking pretty good right now. When we come back to the next video, I'm going to get into coloring him and modifying him up a little bit more.